Hi, I'm Deborah Berman with Gold Derby, and I've gathered my friends. I think they're still friends. We were kind of yelling at each other. There will be more yelling, and then we're going to move on to talk about limited series. Pete, you want to start us off? Who do you think are getting the limited series slots?
I can start and end with Adolescence.
Thank you. And scene.
I just think the race here we're going to talk about is for 2, 3, 4, 5.
Correct.
But I think Adolescence, for every reason you can imagine, it's global reach, what it's talking about, the extraordinary acting, directing, writing, everything about this is, once in a generation kind of like this thing is taken off.
It's a phenomenon.
It isn't going to stop at nominations. This is the one to beat.
Well, it's like twice in a generation because we had the same crazy late swoop in from a British thing on Netflix last year with Baby Reindeer. These guys,
they've got the playbook and they're following the playbook.
Yeah. And I think it's going to do better than Baby Reindeer did.
I agree.
I think it's going to annihilate.
Because it'll get craft categories too. And the other point I just want to make, I know when we were talking about drama, we were debating binge versus episodic. Here we had a binge drop. Nobody knew anything about it. It came and it built momentum and it became that thing. And again, going back to my point about voters, watching the thing that they know that they have to talk about.
Yeah, but it's only 4 episodes. So a binge drop on 4 episodes that depends on people telling you you have to see this show. What is it? It's Adolescence. Oh, I don't know. Well, it's only 4 episodes. Check it out. It has the same effect of these shows that go week to week in an odd way, the way this show has worked, that it is a word of mouth show. I know this, everybody goes, oh, yeah. And then they watch it and then they're blown away.
Yeah, I think limited series is the one series category where a binge drop is actually better. I mean, Baby Reindeer won last year. In recent years, we've seen a lot of shows that drops that way actually really succeed.
And I think this is a better consumed on your own time. I like being able to watch it as I wanted to watch it and being able to recommend it, saying just wait till you get to the 3rd episode, but take a minute before you get to the 3rd episode.
Well, that's the thing. I couldn't binge Adolescence. It was too hard. I was
like,
look, I will spend a month between episode 3 and episode 4. Just getting over it.
There's some therapy involved.
It played like a film to me, like a movie.
Yeah. And that's how I felt about Beef. Beef, I had to disengage for a while because I was getting
Oh yeah, another binge model. That
all right. So this episode is brought to you by Adolescence, but we do have 4. We do have 4 other slots. So who are getting those 4 slots?
So let me talk about the Penguin for a minute, because I think that was the one to beat before Adolescence went up.
Yes.
But here's the thing, and even if Adolescence didn't show up, I maybe would have been a little hesitant because genre superhero doesn't do that well at Emmys. Ask WandaVision. Ask Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, and Catherine Hahn, who went home empty-handed those years. They just don't typically go for genre superhero stuff, but I think it's undoubtedly going to get in. I think Monsters is the Ryan Murphy factor. I mean, just doubt it at your own peril. But I think
popularity, everyone's watched it.
Everyone watched it.
The whole conversation. I mean, whether you like it or not, and I'm annoyed by how much I think it's ridiculous. We're talking about paroling the Menendez brothers, but it's in the news every day.
It definitely is. This is a show that's made a difference here, whether you like it or not. And that's significant in terms of the importance of television. And I think Academy voters like that. So I think that's definitely there. A show I like that won't get in. And it was mixed on critics, but I really thought it was good, was Zero Day with Robert De Niro. If you really look at that show and what it was saying and everything, I think it deserves better than it got. And that's another Netflix show. But I really thought it was outstanding. And just give it a shout out. It probably won't get in. But
they own this category, not only with the past few years winners, like we were saying, Beef and Baby Reindeer, but they could have 3. I don't think more than 3, but so let's say they're going to have Adolescence. They're probably going to have Monsters.
Yes.
They're probably going to have Black Mirror, which was excellent this season. But to me, I mean, I'm not saying this should happen or will happen, but they also have Sirens. They also have Apple Cider Vinegar, which I think has been, I don't know why that wasn't as much a part of the conversation, but then they have Zero Day. I mean, this is it's unbelievable the depth of what they have.
Yeah, and let's not discount Robert De Niro. In this role,
it's amazing to think we're not talking about Robert De Niro as a potential nominee here.
It's amazing, right? I mean, and so also, Apple started the year off with Disclaimer with Kate Blanchett and Kevin Kline, and where's that been lately?
And Sacha Baron Cohen, directed by Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah,
where's that?
I think had they campaigned, it would have had a better chance, but they've kind of done nothing.
I think a little bit of Disclaimer has it was just too long ago. Interestingly, I think if they had released Presumed Innocent today, Presumed Innocent I think would be a lock to get in. That was something that was widely watched.
Yeah,
everyone talked about.
Where has Jake Gyllenhaal been?
He's on Broadway.
Well, Broadway, yeah.
Broadway.
But you can still do a few key things.
But nevertheless,
Peter Sarsgaard deserves a Emmy, I think, here.
Well, he'll get nominated.
In Presumed Innocent. He's really good.
He may well get nominated.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Dying for Sex, so we need to talk about Dying for Sex, because I think it's an incredible performance from Michelle Williams and Jenny Slate. I think they both get in. I think it gets a slot.
FX always factors in here as well.
Yeah.
So I think, in a way, it's not that there's block voting, but essentially, it's rare that you don't see a certain, there's going to be an HBO show in here. There's going to be a Netflix. So I think Dying for Sex.
This is FX's show.
I think so. Although I will say Nothing hasn't gotten viewed as much or talked about.
I love Say Nothing.
And it won the scripter for, not that affects anything here, but it's just, it's good. For people who watch it, they like it.
Let me say something to that, Fiber. I think you brought up a good point. And this happened this is kind of the Black Mirror argument also, of 3 shows. In 2022, Hulu got 3 shows. It was Pam and Tommy was a surprise. Dope Sick and The Dropout obviously were in there. And I think sometimes that passion can really come through for certain shows. Why Dying for Sex it's totally in. I feel, again, if you think Michelle Williams is the one to beat, they don't really do one-offs in a lot of slots. So I think that's why I think that is in. The Black Mirror issue is it's never gotten in here before, although it's been kind of in that TV movie boat until the Academy ended that rule, and then it's been in this kind of weird vacuum. I think it's the best season that it's ever done. And with that, I will say a small watch out for Dope Thief. It's a really good show. Brian Tyree Henry, I think, is on the table, as is Bognomora, thanks to a Cannes win that I think is actually going to help a bit, and a pilot that's directed by Ridley Scott. It's a really, really...
Yeah, the pilot's very good. Wagner Mora's really good. And it's a good show, but it doesn't have the buzz to get in here, I don't think.
I think we're bringing up a lot of shows that we're going to see represented in the acting categories.
Right. Exactly.
But I think, as we were saying, there's probably that, I think Say Nothing is that, prestige pick that has picked up, like you said, scripters, it won a Peabody, etc. I do think it's on people's radar and is not probably going to get acting nominations. And so people can take all that passion towards making sure the show is nominated.
I hope people vote like that, because remember, there's only 5 slots for limited series versus 8 for comedy and drama, which is a hill I'm going to die on.
If people actually watched Peacock, I think that Long Bright River probably wouldn't get in for series, but I think Amanda Seyfried might have a shot. There's some, to what Marcus is saying about individuals popping from different shows. I don't think it's out of the question that Caitlin Dever gets nominated for Apple Cider Vinegar. I don't, you could have a De Niro for Zero Day. You could have, so there's a lot of depth in this category that you may just have to, some of them are going to have to just settle for an acting nom here or there.
I think you're right.
You could also make this a default 8 because 5 is actually silly.
I agree.
Yes.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
I think a default 8 would be fine here. What's the reason to not do it? Explain that to me. We're not adding another category, which no one needs or wants.
And it's a
all
very
the good
deep
stuff is. All the good stuff is here.
And I think here, especially, Marcus, to your point, you're going to see a split between the series noms and the acting noms, because the acting noms are going to be only going to get some of these performers in.
Right.
Well, you do have some of these movies, these television movies, are so-called television movies. The one that they just dropped, and now they're doing FYCs at the last minute, is Jesse Armstrong's The Mountaintop, whatever it is.
That
one, not gone over great, but then there's also... I guess they're all doing their last minute push, but I mean, Zellweger for
Zellweger for a movie that is the highest grossing globally in theaters movie for Bridget Jones ever, but played on Peacock. So suddenly they're talking about she's the first one that can win an Emmy and an Oscar nomination for the same thing.
It's crazy.
It's just a playing around with these categories of what's pure television in America versus France and Italy and other places.
It's an argument.
Well, the
every
TV
year.
movie category needs some rethought. It's really just about how
It's
something
always
gets
needs
released.
rethought. I was on the board of governors for 6 years, and all we did was go back and forth on these things. And Black Mirror was one of the huge problems when I was on it because how do you say this is what, and they played all kinds of games with that.
But it hurts the actors too, because how do you compare a 2-hour performance to an 8-hour performance in some cases?
I mean, but I will say this time around, if Paul Giamatti is on that lead actor list, I don't know what we're doing.
I know.
Like, I think it's one of his best performances ever of his career, and it's in the best episode of Black Mirror that there's ever been. It really is. I mean, listen, there's embarrassment of riches for lead actor because Stephen Graham, Colin Farrell, who's swept up until now, Cooper Koch, I think, is in. But there are only going to be 5 slots here, and there are a lot.
So where do you go from there?
I think watch out for Aaron Pierre. I mean, Rebel Ridge is probably the best of the TV movie bunch, and people watched it. Like, that was a huge Netflix film.
Yeah, I just think when you have a lineup that's going to probably leave out Kevin Kline, Nicholas Alexander Chavez,
Robert De Niro, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Robert De Niro. It's tough. It's very tough. I think there are 4 taken up, and then that 5th slot is kind of like anyone.
The 4 that are in Farrell, Graham, Koch.
I think Giamatti's in.
He's great, but
I think it's hard, but it's 1 hour. I love it.
I think the 3, at least we can all probably agree on 3, which are Farrell, Graham, and Koch. And then to me, it's like if you're voting for Koch, I understand he had that one episode where it's like the special one, but I still have a hard time imagining too many people that like him enough to nominate, then separate. So I think Chavez, and personally, that last one could be Giamatti, could be Gyllenhaal, could be Brian Tyree Henry, but like that 5th one is what's I'm actually struggling over the most. If again, the thing that's messed up is that, as what we were saying earlier, Clayton I think said was like Presumed Innocent comes out this week, Gyllenhaal and all these guys are in.
Right.
And actually, like
timing matters, and there's a lot of recency bias.
And but the thing is, the reason I'm sticking with Gyllenhaal is Idris Elba from last year or 2 years ago. People saw it. The upside of being really early is everybody at least checks you out, and they have time to check you out. And I think that in this case, it was really good. And I don't know if everybody's gotten around to all the Black Mirrors or to Dope Thief or some of these other Rebel Ridge, but everybody watched Presumed Innocent.
Yeah, I don't think they've gotten around to all the Black Mirrors. And actually, if I was back on the board, this anthology thing added to these categories doesn't really do it justice. So there should be another category.
All right. I want to give the women equal time because that's what I'm here for. I got to represent. So we talked about Michelle Williams. It's a lock.
Yeah, she's in.
Yeah.
So
Kristen Milioti.
In.
I think Renee is in.
Yeah.
No, I think Kate Blanchett's in. I think there's
okay. Excuse me. Renee is campaigning like crazy, and in terms of outstanding TV movie, like what else is there to watch? I mean,
but they don't always include
the women in Mountainhead. Oh wait, I'm sorry.
I listen. I think Renee's on the table, but I will say I think I could say this to the straight face. I think lead actress limited this year is not great. Like, it's not a good field.
Caitlin Deaver?
And yet Renee isn't on the table.
That's why Renee
Renee's not locked.
Because it's a very thin lineup. Then the last 2 slots you can go Lola Pettigrew from Say Nothing, which could be a real good critical pick. Amanda Seyfried is former winner here. Rashida Jones is great in Black Mirror, even though she's borderline, we're talking about the screen time thing that affects. Ari Grainer is also a very thin lead, but
Caitlin Deaver.
Caitlin, listen again.
And again, she's got The Last of Us, so I would go for the potential double nomination.
And really strong, great in it. I don't understand what happened. She's great.
I don't think anyone saw it. That's why Netflix is not always like surefire. Everyone's going to see your show. Like, it came out in March, and I think like people just didn't.
It was popular, but Netflix didn't campaign it.
Well,
they haven't done anything for
popular, it. Which I don't know. They don't. If it would help if we saw real numbers, but the bottom line is, like, if you watch it, that's a huge swing of a performance. She's always good, but
right, and she's in it throughout. She owns it.
Right.
Yeah,
she's great.
I will say, I'm not saying that this would happen, but I will say that in the past couple years, I've been surprised at how much voters look to Hulu for limited series. And so I don't think we really finished Good American Family, but I do think Ellen Pompeo is still very much on the table for a nomination because
of the reason I
think, yeah, when
just for doing something other than Grey's Anatomy.
Yes.
And I do think people look to Hulu for like what their limited series output is.
Isn't Nicole Kidman in anything this year?
They moved her to drama for Perfect Couple. Yeah,
Perfect Couple.
And you know what? It was interesting about Nicole Kidman. I thought about this the other day. She hasn't really gotten what I call like sloppy noms. Like, you know, like she's not in Emmy land. Like if they don't like her show, she didn't get nominated for The Undoing, and that was like, you know, kind of right there for her. So like, I don't think she, but I will say Megan Fahey, I'm keeping an eye on, because former nominee. Listen, there's two things. If you're nominated before and you watch your show, you're kind of like in this like two-pronged boat of like, it's an advantage for you. I don't know how many people have seen Sirens, but I think Megan Fahey is well liked.
And she's great.
And
she's
recency
everywhere.
bias. I will go for recency bias and to the point of like the show that everyone is talking about. All right. Got to end it there. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it. And we'll do this again and looking forward to it.